Hello YouTube and hello fellow Honkai Star Rail players. It doesn't matter if you are day 1, new players or in the middle, I am addressing you all. We are before the widest crossroads the game ever had, and we have so many decisions to do. It's very confusing even for expert players. So let's talk about it. This week, and specifically this week, could define the future of your account, because in this week we have all the doors open. Speaking of doors, patch 2.5 part 1 has 4 5 stars on the banners. That never happened before, and it means you can do a lot of things based on patch 2.5 part 1 only. But that's not everything we have to say about this situation, because the most important harmony units besides Ruan Mei are here. We have Jiaoqiu, who is an incredible support, by the way. He was underestimated a lot and is key for teams, we will see. Sparkle, that is obviously very strong, and Robin, which are the 4 main supports in the entire game. This means that based on the support you choose, you can decide the direction of your account. But that's not even it. We also have Feixiao, which is an incredible DPS, Kafka, which is a key part of the DOT team, and is important as much as a key support, and other characters in 2.5 part 2, which we can't really ignore. So let's start and think about it. What defines your choices? So this is the moment for your account where you really need to understand which are the archetypes you are building for. I will try to tell you which are the priorities for each archetypes and the pooling you should do, or at the very least I would suggest you to do on each banners. First, let's delete the units that are not really helping any of the 4. So Arlans goes away, Hook goes away. Of course you can pull for them if you like them, but that really doesn't twist your account enough, because they are pretty common, right? Also, Luca can be useful, Asta can be useful, Mozi is very important. We can delete Natasha, it's for free, and Misha for now. So we have a simplified situation. Let's start. When it comes to Jiaoqiu banner, when are you pulling? You pull for this if you're building an Acheron team, and in that case, I would suggest you to pull for the Lycon too, if you don't have other supports that can replace Jiaoqiu. But Jiaoqiu is one of the best, if not the best piece for the Acheron team, besides Acheron, of course. If you don't have Acheron, you may consider saving up Jades. If you are free to play, of course you should do that, and just pull for Jiaoqiu, but the Lycon is incredibly strong. Also, the Lycon gives you one more debuff, and it makes him very strong for the Dr. Ratio team. Dr. Ratio is a free-to-play unit, or at the very least it was, and if you have Dr. Ratio, you can consider Lycon to be another helper for your team. Then there's Guinaifen. Having one Guinaifen is very useful for damage over time, and Acheron teams as well, I think you can use her. So pulling at least once here, 10 pulls, and trying to get Guinaifen is worth it. Pulling too much and risking high PD for Guinaifen is not worth it though. Now let's talk about the Sparkle banner. The Sparkle banner, which also has Guinaifen, is incredibly important for hyper carry, so Sparkle hyper carry is an obvious choice. But Sparkle is still good in follow-up, you can use her of course, because her trace allows her to buff follow-up attackers even outside their turns. And she's strong with Acheron team as well. So this is already a choice you have to make, so let's move Guinaifen down. Should you pull for Sparkle and Jiaoqiu, or Jiaoqiu and his Lycon? Well, that's not easy to decide, because the Lycon is incredibly strong and you can use characters that are not Sparkle. So let's go see the Acheron team. If you have other characters like Black Swan and Silver Wolf, you of course have Pella, you can think about not pulling for Sparkle. And to be honest here, I would see a decision between the two, and I would go for Jiaoqiu and Lycon instead of Sparkle. But you can definitely do this if you prefer having a more flexible account that can actually work for hyper carry too. This is more vertical build and this is a more horizontal build. So what would I suggest? I would say go for the strong one. If you prefer ratio, you go for the Lycon. If you prefer Hypercarry and other teams, you go for the Sparkles. When it comes to Sparkles Lycon, Earthly Escapade, it has been a nightmare of mine. I tried to pull and lost the 75-25. So keep in mind the Lycons are not guaranteed, they are better to pull than characters. Do you need this Lycon? You have many alternatives. Past and Future Superimposition 5 is very strong already. This makes your grind for artifacts a little bit easier, but considering how many choices we have, this goes out of the table for now. Let's go ahead. We have Feixiao's banner. So, who are pulling for Feixiao? That's pretty easy. Only follow-up accounts that need a DPS should pull for Feixiao, because Feixiao is not in any other archetype. You can find also Luca that you can use in the Acheron team as well as the damage over time team, so these 4 stars are pretty fine. Asta is a generic support, so for now just delete her, she's very generic, and Mozi is a very good second DPS for the follow-up team. This banner is into the follow-up category. This one is into the Acheron and this one is in between the two. Now, when it comes to Feixiao's Lycon, I don't know much about it, but if you're going Hypercarry, you can pull for it, but I would say last priority. When it comes to follow-up, if you don't have a DPS, this is much more important than Sparkle, and this comes along, so you can do this. Also, if you want to be pure follow-up and you love her, you can definitely go for the Lycon, but follow-up users have too much to take care of, and you will see just now why. The side banner has Robin, and if you don't have Robin, Robin is the most important support. So it goes here. It's more important than the Lycon, of course, because you don't have any other incredible support. But there's a problem. If you don't have the event Lycon for Robin, you also need the 5-star Lycon as a replacement, because you would lose on 32% over damage, and this is very strong Lycon as well. So I would say the priority list for follow-up is this one. Keep in mind though that if you have Yun Li or another follow-up main DPS, your priority immediately falls on Robin. Or if you have Robin, you can decide to go for the Lycon. If you don't have the event one, that is already very good. If you have it, you go for Sparkle, it's pretty easy. So in the end, the Lycon for Feixiao ends up being low on priority. Maybe it's a little more important than Sparkle because it's more specific, so you can do this if you prefer. So this banner is about to end up into follow-up, but keep in mind that this of course belongs here, but it also specifically belongs here. You probably want both of them in a damage over time team. They are the most important pieces. You want the Kafka, you want the Black Swan. Keep in mind that Black Swan's Lycon is not best in slot anymore, so if you really want a Lycon for her, you want to pull for Jiaoqiu's Lycon. In that case, this goes here. When it comes to Kafka's Lycon, you have many alternatives to the signature Lycon. You can do Good Night and Sleep Well that you find on the banners. You can do Eyes of the Prey, it's also very good. You can do Fermana, which has her image on, and you really don't feel the difference so much. This is kind of a premium thing that we will place on the 4th. Those are also very good, and you will end up having them almost for free. This is definitely your banner. If you need Robin, this is your main banner, you just go for it. Keep in mind though that pulling for 2 characters and a Lycon is incredibly hard, especially because the Lycon is on the previous patch compared to this, so this kind of for whales. If you are a free-to-play or a low spender, you just go for Kafka and you stop. It's kind of a pity, but of course Kafka is the enabler, and you can do your team with something else, like 4 stars. So don't worry too much about it. If you're lucky though, try Black Swan. Black Swan will help you a lot. And now let's talk about patch 2.5 part 2. Here we have Lingsha and Lingsha Lycon, and Topaz Lycon of course. When it comes to Lingsha's Lycon, this is kinda useful for break, but break is not very lucky in this patch, considering that there may be a Firefly rerun or a Boot Hill rerun soon. This is to be ignored because you have Gallagher for free. If you don't have a Gallagher yet, it can be an option, but it's not really your banner. When it comes to Topaz, Topaz is just for the follow-up, but as you can see, the follow-up lane is already too busy. So what can we do here? Topaz ends up being around here, a little bit before Sparkle, but Sparkle also does very well with other teams, so let's say this. In the end, if you're not building a second team that is either hyper carry or follow-up, you can ignore Sparkle and go to full follow-up like this. Then of course, can you really get all of these? It depends. If you already have some characters like Robin, any Lightcon that works, you can probably do Feixiao, Lightcon, and maybe Topaz if you're very lucky or you're spending. Or if you have Yun Li or another follow-up main DPS, you can definitely ignore both Feixiao and Lightcon and just go straight Robin and Topaz, for instance, or just Topaz if you already have Robin. So this banner goes here as well. To close this discussion, the most flexible units that will be strong regardless will be Sparkle, Robin, Jiaoqiu surprisingly enough, and Kafka. And as you can see, those are the potential paths for your account. You usually choose at most 2, and this is up to you, but for those patches that are all close together, you'll be forced to choose 1. If you love Feixiao, of course pull for her, that's another option. It's less flexible because you define your main DPS, while follow-up has many main DPSs. But then again, if you don't have any, you definitely need 1, and in that case, it's more important than Robin. If you want the most flexible choice and you really can't decide which path to take Sparkle. Sparkle appears in Hyper Carry, I will just copy-paste, but she also appears in follow-up and the Acheron team, so she leaves your options open. I also can see kind of a pattern here for the bright side of the accounts and the dark sides. So if you like bright compositions, this is what you're going for. Hyper carry and follow-up for now, based on the characters. Then, of course, Mozzie is not really bright, but as you can see, there are many things like Robin singing and Feixiao being a hero on the starships. It really feels like a light theme. If you like the more dark themed account building that revolves around nihility, you definitely should consider Jiaoqiu first because it's a support that appears in both the lanes, and then Kafka. Kafka is a kind of a must pull if you're going nihility because she really helps many teams, Acheron, damage over time, and maybe even future compositions. That's everything I wanted to share. As you can see, Sparkle is more generic, then you can go light path or dark path, and everything else is really determined by how many resources you have. Keep in mind that you really want to choose the first target, and then if you're lucky, you can try getting the second. This is Nero Atlas trying to guide you through the mess that is patch 2.5 with so many banners and the last week of 2.4 that also includes a lot. So thank you for being here, this is Nero Atlas, signing out.